Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Happy Hearing podcast. Today's episode is episode number 17. I'm Carly Sygrove, I'm a hearing loss coach, advocate and writer, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Amy Morton. Amy is the founder of Living with Hearing Loss UK, which is an online community and support resource. I'd just like to welcome Amy to the podcast.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. It's lovely to see you after all these years. Yeah, we met a few years ago, so yeah, it's lovely to see you, and thank you for inviting me.
It's lovely to have you on too, Amy. I'm afraid my podcast co-host, Dr. Ruth Reisman, can't be here today, but hopefully we'll have you back on the podcast anyway so you can meet us both.
No, that'd be lovely. That'd be really nice.
Perfect. Okay, would you like to start by telling me a bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Amy Morton, and I'm, like you said, the founder of Living with Hearing Loss UK. I am a mum to two children. They're aged 12 and 10 now. Married, and we have a dog, very noisy, and thankfully they're all out of the house right now. So it's nice and peaceful and quiet, and plus the builder's not here either. So that's really a big plus for this podcast. So nice and peaceful. But yes, so that's a little bit about me. And I started living with hearing loss as a result of the pandemic. With the wearing of masks, and chose to speak up about the challenges that the deaf community and myself were experiencing. And through that, being a woman on a mission to generate awareness around the exemption card, Living with Hearing Loss was born. And that's how we met a few years ago, Carly. I think it was right at the beginning, I believe. But yes, so, and it's just been something that I've loved to be amongst and wanted to do more to support all the charities that do such wonderful work, and also do more to see how I could best help my community, really. And yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about me and living with hearing loss and how I started it. But yeah.
I remember connecting with you at the beginning of the pandemic, and my hearing loss is just in one ear, unlike yours, which is in both ears, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was struggling to make out what anyone was saying through face masks, and also we then didn't have the facial expressions to help us either, or be able to read their lips. And I mean, I didn't realize I was lip reading a lot of the time until people started wearing masks. And I think that's something that we really connected over in the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes, that was how we found each other. So yes, I should explain the big part of me, which I haven't spoken about, is my hearing loss. So my hearing loss is a severe, like moderate to severe hearing loss in both ears, and I rely on lip reading and facial expressions. And it wasn't really, like you say, Kylie, it wasn't until the pandemic struck I hadn't appreciated just how much I rely on it. I knew it was one of my skills and one of my superpowers, but I didn't appreciate just because I took it for granted. And it wasn't until it was taken away that I thought, oh my gosh. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I actually felt disabled. And it hadn't really, I realized I do have a disability. It's an invisible disability. And it is something that I really need to, it really made me, I just blossomed and wanted to speak out about it and come out of the closet more about own it. And I was really faced with having to really come to terms with it, basically. After living quite I guess for 40 years, because I was born with my hearing loss, being conditioned to fit into a hearing world. And part of that coping mechanism is to appear like you're coping and that you're no problem, there's no inconvenience, and you can just fit in and slot and adjust. You don't want to create a fuss. But part of that is to do with my family script, like family, but also a lot of that conditioning does, I think when you've been brought up going into a mainstream school, that's where it's all kind of stemmed from. And so when I became faced with it, with the lip reading, that was when, and it being taken away, I thought, right, I really need to start owning this, and I really want to talk about it. I had wanted to speak more openly about my hearing loss previous years before that, when I had my children, because I was finding barriers there as well, and having to be more outspoken about my needs. And so it came from, a real personal place of having to really come face to face with it and be more outspoken. And actually it was really healing. It really gave me so much. I talk about it before and it sounds really cheesy, but a real level of self-respect and self-love and real ownership, and feeling really proud actually of my my hearing loss and my disability that I had, and really owning it and calling it that. It was really healing. So from what was quite traumatic initially, having that taken away, I really wanted to, like many people when they're faced with these things, want to overcome it. And by doing that, it was basically just trying to be as loud as I could with the challenges that we were all facing, and to try and use whatever resources I had around me, and friends of friends, all pulled together. It was really lovely to feel that support from some strangers that I've not even met, who really took it upon themselves, gave up their time, and were like, right, okay, let's do this, Amy. And we we managed to get quite successful with this campaign. We were going out to local businesses, asking them to put a display of a poster up in their shop to say that they were lip reading friendly and they understood the challenges, and that they understood that they were to step a distance away from a clear screen. Sorry, I know it's all like talking about COVID, but it was a big part of how living with hearing loss was born. We raised awareness with them, and they were so happy to come on board with it. And it just reduced the anxiety that the deaf community would feel approaching these establishments, like going to a coffee shop during the pandemic. Like, I used to have to, before I started the campaign, I was like, Charlie, my husband, can you do the order? And but then actually he had a hearing loss on one single-sided. He had one ear, so we were like, you know, it was like, we were just like, well, you go. So anyway, it was a right old muddle, but he, it was hard. And so this campaign, being able to present a solution and to reassure them and raise awareness of this exemption card that was available by the government on the UK site, because there just wasn't that awareness. It's very fast-paced, and the rules, as we can all recall, were ever-changing. We didn't really know where we were from. Every 2 weeks it would change. Initially we were given there was a consequence if you were caught with your, your mask off, and you had to provide, proof that you didn't need to wear them, and there was all of that. So it created a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry for everyone. I don't think anyone's unaffected by that time. But for the deaf community, there was just this element of a challenge that wasn't really being talked about. And so I did talk about it a lot within the local community. And then we got really successful with a kind friend of mine who helped me to put together a press release. And we got successful with the BBC, Hello Magazine, Female First, London Live. And so that was incredible. And I pulled R&ID in as well. And we were able to do some coverage on it on Deaf Awareness Week. We kicked it off with that. And so that was brilliant. But it's all come from the community, and my friends and family really have all driven that, and myself obviously. So that was really successful. And then after that, we carried on doing what we were doing, and then we reached the end of the wearing of masks, and we were seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, which everyone was so grateful for. And then it kind of made me think, okay, so what more can I give back? What more can I do? Because I love being amongst my community, and the people that I've met, and the passion behind all these charities. And there was a lot of furloughing that was going on, so they really went through some hard times. And so I thought, what can I do to support them? Just in a small, whatever can I do? So I thought, and also, what would benefit the deaf community? So there's lots of resources that we're not all privy to. And I myself, having grown up with hearing loss, and in the 80s, I should say, and so it's a bit different to now. But there's no kind of like, I wasn't fully aware of everything that I was entitled to, or what support was out there. I've just gathered all of this incredible knowledge from doing my campaigning. And I thought, well, let's set up a directory. Let's get everyone on there, and let's start sharing everyone and highlighting these incredible organisations, yourself being one of them, Carly. So I thought, right. So I set about launching the website and the directory, and then it also in turn, because I love to have a chat, and I love to hear people's stories, and so we also started speaking to people about their own experience, and creating, with those sharing of stories, like you've shared yours, Carly, on our blog. It really creates validation for other people in their own experience, and I think that can be underestimated sometimes. It's so important, that validation, that you know that you're not the only one going through that unique situation, because the deaf community is so wide. It's so wide. And it's it goes from mild hearing loss right through to profound, and everything in between that. We have unique needs. Even I know a couple of people who've got the same hearing loss as me, and they have different communication needs to me, because we've had different experiences, and we thrive in different environments. So it's a wide community of people with unique access needs within it all, and I just love it, because I'm always learning. So if I'm always learning, being someone that's lived with hearing loss my whole life, then surely there's many that would benefit from all of this wonderful information. So that was kind of my intention with Living with Hearing Loss UK after the pandemic, to really build on that and to create a community. And we have definitely achieved that. And our most prominent social media platforms is probably Instagram, and Facebook. We also do a quarterly newsletter, which we're building on. And in that newsletter, it's all about highlighting different resources that are available to us, and things going on, and current campaigns and all sorts of information. I mean, it's such a wide community. You're never short of anything to talk about or anything to learn from, or it's incredible. It really is. Yeah, and I've been learning British Sign Language, Carly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've done my BSL level 1. I'm now currently doing my BSL level 2.
Fantastic.
Which is I love it. It's really opened up my eyes even more to my own upbringing, and like the coping mechanisms that I put in place are actually quite exhausting. And when, I don't know, it's just so relaxing being in the class and using more of my expressions, which I'm always using my hands to talk, and my facial expressions as well. But actually to make it make sense is really good. I'm meeting lovely people, and
I actually, many years before my hearing loss, when I lived in the UK, I learnt level 1 British Sign Language just because I wanted to learn it. And the reason I stopped is because I left the UK. But I loved it too as well, and I actually loved the community. Our class was wonderful, and I just loved practicing it and learning it. So yeah, Amy, I'm wondering, because you've talked a little bit about your childhood. You've just hinted at the kind of the culture you're almost brought up in. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? So your parents, they sent you to a mainstream secondary school, which I think had a deaf unit. Did you want to speak to some of the challenges that you had while you were there?
Yeah. So it felt like the right decision by my parents, because before secondary, I was in a mainstream school with no deaf unit. I was the only deaf child in the school, all the way from my nursery, primary to up until the age of leaving to go to secondary. And I had a support worker who would come into my, I think probably once a day, sometimes once every 2 days. So she would always be there. We'd check in. I'd be removed from the class, and we would then spend some time on particular work. And I think that kind of worked, but I was so, I guess, removed from the class environment and into a quieter environment, and I think my mum, there was a availability with a school which was a short drive away, and she and my dad, but they're divorced at the time, so they both felt that this seemed like the best option for secondary. They'd ruled out a deaf-centred school very early on, because I was born in Cheltenham and there was a specialised school near there, and they'd ruled that out very early on. So that was something that was never going to be an option. This felt like an option for them. I think their thinking, bearing in mind they were born parents in the 80s with limited resources and no social media. So, very much in the dark. So they just led their decisions with what they knew at the time. They felt like, okay, good secondary school to have the support of a unit. And I think it did work to a degree, but during those years, you know, we're starting secondary at the age of 12, 13. They're not pleasant years growing up.
No.
You know, it's all, you know, all we want to do is fit in. Want to fit in and just quietly go about our day, and, you know, challenges with friendships are just, you know, escalating through those roof. We're so worried about what everyone thinks, and so it was for myself as a child in the 90s. I just, not initially, but as I was getting older, towards the end of my time at secondary school, I started to rebel a bit and really wanted to fit in. Felt, you know, I don't need my phonic ear. So the practice was, so you would go to the unit, collect your phonic ear, which was a box that you'd wear around your neck, and you would then also be given the microphone and another box to give to your teacher at the start of the lesson. So I would have that on me for the whole day. For the whole day. I was just thinking, did I ever go back to, if I needed to go back, it would be lunchtime to charge up or to get a new one if there was any problem with the battery. But that was on me, and it was up to me to give to the teacher accordingly. And the actual, I found it cancelled out a lot of the free flow conversation between my friends, because it meant I had to focus on, I didn't have any choice, it was right in my ear. And the quality of the sound for me, it's very loud. Bearing in mind the technology that we had then for my hearing loss was all about amplifying sound. There was no delicate, let's try and bring those, you know, the technology now is about bringing those sounds that you can't hear into a different zone.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just getting all this amplification, and it was so, that times 100 going through my ear, it was really uncomfortable. It wasn't pleasant. The clarity wasn't really there. So it was hard. And for being, and also a child that just doesn't want to upset or cause fuss, or wasn't really feeling empowered that actually this isn't benefiting me, I would say, but then the people who were part of this unit, they didn't recognise the problem. It's very frustrating, and so I just had to wing it, just get by as best I could. And towards the end, I started to rebel and think, actually, this isn't benefiting me. Started to get a bit more, you know, empowered, I suppose, with speaking up for myself. However, it caused friction, but it, you know, at the end of the day, I think that was a lot of the reason why I left after my GCSEs and didn't go on to sixth form there. I then went on to college, a fresh start, and I decided to try out a career that I felt, whatever my decisions were, they were geared towards making sure I have a career that's going to suit my hearing loss and isn't going to create any stress. So I went on to do hairdressing and beauty. Hairdressing wasn't for me. Quickly found out that didn't work. There's so much noise going on, it just didn't work. So the beauty side really interested me. So that was it. So I just went with that and did that for 12 years and loved it, because I was very much in my own room, in my own space, with beautiful, relaxing music and one-on-one, mostly with clients. And I really, towards the end, you know, was more of a holistic therapist. So very relaxing, and I loved it. It was a real passion. So I guess my whole school life has been about adapting, not really having the full things around me to support me all the time. So I've had to duck and dive and just kind of like, it's just, yeah, it was quite challenging. It was quite challenging. And whenever I think about children today, it does make me very emotional. And I've just recently come into contact with a petition, a campaign for a school that is being closed down in Brighton in the UK next year. And it really is very close to home. And I can't stress enough how important it is for those children to have the right accommodations around them, the right support. Each child deserves to have access to a full education, a fair shot.
Amy, you can say the name of the school if you want. I don't think there's any problem if you'd like to.
So the name of the school is Hamilton Lodge School in Brighton. I stumbled upon this and was just really moved by it. And the mum, whose daughter has got a profound hearing loss, that the school has set about organising a petition. It's all on my LinkedIn account, on my Instagram page. There's also information on my Facebook page as well. So anyone that would like to go along and find out more about what's going on, there's a petition that she's hoping to just generate some attention around the decline in deaf schools. So there seems to be, I don't know yet, I'm due to have a meeting with Helen to understand more about what's causing this. But based on my own experience, I wouldn't say it's a really clever decision, personally. I think, children who have found hearing loss need to have access to their language, British Sign Language, and they need to be around children, and also children who have severe hearing loss as well, to be within that community. It is a hard conversation for me to have with my mum, because she very much, and I completely understand how she arrived at that decision. I will never know if my education and my experience would have been different. I think I would have probably been prouder of my deaf identity. But hey, we'll get there eventually.
Exactly, Amy, exactly. And look at you now, you've given a voice to people with hearing loss, deaf people, the deaf community all over the world, not just in the UK, all over the world, because that's the beauty of being online. You can actually reach people everywhere. I'm going to change the subject slightly, but not too much, because we're talking about children, and I know you've mentioned you've got two young children. I'm wondering how becoming a mother, did it change your experience of hearing loss, or what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so becoming a mum, being, from the very start, being in the midwife appointment, to being in the labour room, to the aftercare, to going to the baby groups, everything brought up these really unique challenges that I didn't really find myself normally in. And it really made me realise that I need to, when I had my little bundle, I looked at them and it's really important that I advocate more for myself, because what I need, they need as well. So I really started to become more outspoken from that moment. So when I was born a mother, I became more outspoken, because it wasn't just about myself anymore. It was about this Ava, my daughter, she was the one that made me a mum. It was about her. So we kind of went through that together. And then my boy came along, and it just presented some unique challenges. Things that I just blasé, just gone through life. I had no fear of becoming a mother. It was just like, yes, I really wanted to be a mum, and I feel very blessed that I've had that opportunity. And I didn't really think too much about the challenges that could be coming ahead, but just dealt with them when I was in it, and realised actually that was when the clock started moving towards wanting to be an advocate and speak up more. Was that there was a lack of awareness. Once the conversation started going, I was so surprised at the lack of awareness around the deaf community. So this is going back 12 years ago. And it stunned me, Carly. I thought, really? But we're in, we're in a different century now. Surely everyone knows that. But no, there was real lack of awareness. And over the years, it just became more profound that this is something that I really want to do. And I remember vocalizing it with a friend of mine who also had children the same age as me, and saying that I really want to do something within the deaf community. I want to start speaking out about my own story. I'm realizing that there's just no awareness out there. There was a part of me, because the reason why it took so long was because I wasn't sure would everyone want to know? Does everyone want to know? Does everyone want to know about my story? I don't know, because for me it's my life. It all seems a bit, is it really that interesting? Okay. And then as I started with living with hearing loss, I realised, actually, yes, people do want to read this. People are interested. This is something, and yes, I need to speak about it more. And I need to speak about the challenges, and I need to raise awareness. I do have a voice. So I realised, from being a mother, that's what gave me my voice, for sure. Because it became less about me, more about them, and it's still now is less about me, it's about my deaf community, and I feel more comfortable with that. This is not my comfort zone really, Carly, but I'm getting better at it. I'm wanting to do more talks, and it's the passion. When you find that passion, it just takes you all over the place, doesn't it? I mean, it really is. Like with what you're doing, the passion, it just takes you where you think you couldn't go. So I am right now doing something that I didn't think I'd be able to do. But it's the passion for my deaf community, and because it's an invisible disability, I think it's all about being visible. It's all about speaking up. So the louder we can talk, the more we can share, the more we can be open and be together. I mean, the new statistics of the deaf community within the UK that have been founded recently from the RNID, 18 million, and that's covering single-sided deafness and tinnitus as well, because they hadn't allowed those figures previously. So they've added in, and when you look at that, I mean, that's like nearly 1 in 3, and it's not surprising because there's so many people, now that I do what I do, I don't know, it's probably the same for you, Carly. If you're, say, at a social event and you mention what you do, someone from somewhere hears and they're like, straight over, wow, I've got a problem with my hearing actually, or it's like, oh, I've got a hearing loss, but I don't wear my hearing aids. I get that all the time. I'm like, right, okay, come on. Yeah.
the amount of people who've said to me, "Oh yeah, I have hearing loss in one ear as well." I'm like, "Really? Do you?" Or I've had even things that are quite rare, like I had sudden hearing loss, but even people I know who've got friends who said, "Oh yeah, they had that too." I'm like, "Really? Why aren't people talking about this more?" And I think that's what I like about what you're doing, Amy, because you are talking about these things and you're putting these things out there. And when you got your own voice, you have given this voice to so many other people. And I think that's really important. And you talked a bit about your being a mother and how that gave you that initial drive to speak up a bit more for yourself. And I know you've got this, it's quite new, I think. It's the Living with Hearing Loss and Motherhood Facebook support group.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to just speak a little bit about that.
Yes. So I set that up because I recognised it's quite a niche situation for people to find themselves in. I wasn't sure whether it was just myself that was experiencing this, because I went through, and I haven't mentioned this yet, I did go through a period of isolation, of low mood, and really wanting to connect with someone who was a mother who had hearing loss as well. Because it felt like a bit of a unique set of challenges I was navigating, and I felt quite on my own with it. And it wasn't until Living with Hearing Loss was born that I ended up doing something, which was when I didn't really need it, but I still wanted to pursue and host that space for mothers so that they didn't experience what I went through. So it's very simple, a Facebook support group, and it was incredible. We've got a good bunch of us in that group, and it's kind of, I've just put them together, and it's just connection. It's all about connection, sharing their stories. I mean, if they have particularly bad day, bad time, bad moment, they're able to share it in a safe space and get that validation and support. It's gently growing, and there's so much more that I want to do for that group. But it is very niche. It's quite slow growing. But yes, so that was again very emotionally driven and wanting to just put it out into the universe, because the thing that I've learned with what I've done, Carly, is if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, right. So I'm all about doing now, because I think, let's do this. What is holding me back? You know, what's the worst case scenario? That no one signs up? Okay, well, at least you tried, you know. And I just thought that might help that one person. And if it helps one person, amazing. You know, that's it. So I don't have any fear with what I do. And I think it's because I've combated the biggest fear, which was coming out of the closet and saying, hey, hello, yes, I'm Amy, and I have a severe hearing loss. And it's here for all of you to look at and judge. Some people might not understand it, but a huge bundle of people do, and that's amazing. So I think I went through that big fear, and so now I'm just fearless, and we just do. We're focusing on doing as much as we can, really. So off the back of that, we've also just this year launched another support group, which I didn't know if it had a space, because there's so many incredible support groups out there. But it is something that, as a result of launching the motherhood one, there was a lot of people coming forward saying, oh, it's just for mums. I was like, yes. So then I was like, right, okay, when I'm ready, we will launch another one. So I've got a good friend that I met some years ago who has kindly offered some support in helping to manage it. So we launched that recently, and that was brilliant. You know, there obviously is a space for these things. So it's just, yeah, so that was the reason why I set up the motherhood support group. And it is all very emotionally entwined into quite a unique set of circumstances that you can find yourself in. For example, Carly, like when I breastfed both of my children, so I'd be feeding my baby and mums would be talking to me and I would miss the conversation because I'm not able to look at them, or they would be dealing with their children or feeding their baby, and so the lack of connection is what I was experiencing, because I'd be in a room but not able to connect because it was really hard. It was really hard. And when you're going through something, it's a new mom, not really knowing what you're doing. And also, I need to make you aware, I didn't really have any family around because they all live all over the place. Like most modern families do now, like, yeah, Carly, you're not in the UK anymore. Yeah. So it kind of works like that. So I didn't really, and I was just growing my village, really, I suppose. If people talk about it takes a village to raise a family, it's very true. And when you don't have one, it's hard. And so that was my situation. So I was really seeking connection, and it was just, I was finding it, but in drips and drabs, and there was no, it was hard. It was hard. It was a hard time. So I just really wanted to give back. It came late for me, but at least hopefully it's not late for them.
Exactly, not late for other people. So I just want to give the names of your two Facebook groups again. So the motherhood is Living with Hearing Loss and Motherhood. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What's the name of your new one, which I'm a part of and I think is wonderful, because I'm not a mother, but I'm part of the other one. So what's the name? Did you want to give the name of the other one?
It's Living with Hearing Loss Support Hub, I believe. Let me just get that completely correct. Or Living with Hearing Loss Support Group.
Okay, I will put links to all of your things in the show notes anyway, Amy, all your resources, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
I'm aware that you've done so many things since I last met you. You put together Pink Noise, which is actually, I've been following this project and it's amazing. Can you tell us a bit about Pink Noise? What is Pink Noise?
So Pink Noise is a hearing aid jewelry campaign. So that came about as a result of me wanting to find a product that would benefit the deaf community, but also provide something in order to make living with hearing loss sustainable. Because it's a CIC and it takes no profit. It's all voluntary work for myself and of funding that it's mostly funded by myself and my husband. So I was wanting, that's kind of where it all started. And we have a family friend whose daughter has set up an incredible jewelry company out of lockdown. She was 20, I believe. 20, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, so young. I was really inspired by her, of course, supporting her with all the mums, like, talking about what they've been doing. And then the penny kind of dropped, and I thought, I wonder, because it was her company is very colourful, really young, beautiful. It's really fun, and she created it's the first time I've seen the ear cuff, the first time, and it just, I don't know, it just all looked amazing, and I loved the colour because I love colourful things. And I just thought, we just had a coffee together. I said, Amelia, have you ever thought about adapting your jewelry for the deaf community? I said, because there's this insane company that I'd also stumbled upon called Death Metal. She's based in Finland. This is what she does. Amelia was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I was like, I know. So I had a chat with Jenny, who is one of the most gorgeous women ever, and I have the privilege of calling my friend. Her story is incredible, and how she launched Death Metal. She is so interesting to talk to. She launched Death Metal as a result of her own hearing loss, and she is a fashion designer. So she was all about, well, okay, I've got hearing aids. How can I make this more about me? So she was in her workshop, fashioned things together, and knocked up one of her first pieces. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it included some a chain and some reindeer leather, because
wow.
she was in Finland. And so she was around music a lot of the time as well. So I think that was the reason why it was called Death Metal. She was so cool. But when I first came to meet her face to face, I was literally, it was on a day where you just can't make it up. Everything was coming, you know, there was a charity race on in London, and I was having to navigate in my little electric car, and I'm rubbish driving in London, but I thought, I've got to meet Jenny. She's in the UK. I am meeting this woman face to face. We've been talking online. When I met her, I was like, oh, she's just the rock star of hearing aid jewelry. She really is. It's the only way to describe her. Her story, her passion behind her brand is just amazing, and the care about her community is center point of everything. And so I thought, oh gosh, I love you. And Amelia, with her colourful designs, is just really, and she's got a young audience. I thought, oh my gosh, our kids, you know, the young community. And then I sort of was thinking about myself, you know, with my story, you know, for me, growing up with hearing loss, it's all about trying to fit in, wearing my hair down. I did, during my primary school years, wear my hair up. But Carly, for example, in the 80s and 90s, there was this thing where you'd have your photo taken for the school photos. And they would ask you, do you want to take your hearing aids out? Do you want to take your glasses off? And without realizing, they're just making you feel like, oh, that's what I have to do in order to fit in. Okay. So, so it's part of like my lived, I guess, elements of trauma that have happened. So with the hearing aid jewelry, with what Jenny created, it really spoke volumes to me. And with Amelia's incredible brand that she'd created and aiming at the young community, I just thought I need to get these girls, these women together. And it was as simple as that, Carly. I said, when are you free? Okay, let's do it. And we had a meeting, and it literally just went off like a bunch of fireworks. It was like, yeah, and before we knew it, it was all happening. It was very much driven with Amelia's brand, because it was really important, because one of the things that really attracted me to it was that it was going to create conversation within a hearing brand. And that was the magic of it. It's what excited Jenny, it's what excited me. And it was magic and so powerful on so many levels. So yeah, it's really a 2-year campaign. We still have some jewelry left on the website, but it was a really lovely coming together of people, and it generated conversation within Amelia's brand. It gave Jenny a new audience, and the pop of colour that was everywhere it was just so fun, and I felt very privileged to be a part of it, to hold it together. So again, it's the doing, no fear. Let's just do it. Let's make it happen. And so we did, and it was just, I'm very proud of it. And the models that we had on the day, it was really special for them, because like one in particular, who is actually my social media consultant, and I was her first deaf person that she's met in a very long time coming out. So, and for her to have been a part of this and to be the face of the campaign was so special for her. And for me to have the privilege to witness these things as well, Carly, the whole thing was a deep privilege. It really was. And it was a real nod to, the 12-year-old Amy, all those years ago, who had to take her hearing aids out in order to have a school photo. Well, this Amy was not doing that. She was literally, adoring her jewelry, saying, here we go, and disappointed that she didn't have her golden ear molds that day, because I was meant to have a glittery ear mold, but they weren't ready in time. So, I mean, that's a transformation. So they're living with, and it was a way of saying thank you to my deaf community, all their support, and just bringing something positive into the world after what has been quite tough for a lot of people within the deaf community and outside of it as well. And it's just, what better way to kind of say here, feel empowered with wearing this beautiful, colourful jewellery, and let's celebrate being able to be out and about and, with this pop of colour. It was a real, I'm very proud of it. So that's
no more fitting in boxes, other people's boxes, being an individual person, being yourself, having colour in your life, and just going for things. And I love that you've kind of also, through doing this, you've given opportunities to people who've been involved. You've made these connections as well, and it's not just about the jewelry, is it? It's about just what it all represents, and giving that little Amy Morton, giving her that splash of colour and being able to just have her own voice and have her own personality.
That's it. And to see herself amongst this really cool band that all young girls want to be a part of at the moment. And I'm very proud of Amelia and what she's achieved. It's just been phenomenal, really. Me and Johnny used to joke that because she's so young and hip on all the like what to do, and we just be like, okay. So we called ourselves like the cool adults. The cool adults. So that we just felt we felt a little bit at times our age, because we're amongst so much. It's just very different, isn't it, now? And like with the social media channel, TikTok, and Amelia has really mastered TikTok, and that's where all her success came from. I'm still not on there.
Me neither.
No. I will get there. I will try. I'm gonna try.
Step by step, Amy. Step by step.
Step.
So, talking about next steps, what's next? Have you got any other plans for the future?
Yeah. So it's all about perfecting what we've built. So building on it. And also, I'm looking to launch some services, offering myself as a deaf consultant to see how we can make events more accessible. And also offering myself as a speaker, so sharing my own experience, and also creating some deaf awareness within my talk. I did one recently with some children, 13-year-old boys mainly, and a couple of girls, and they loved it. So that was just the most incredible feedback. and it's an interactive kind of workshop, but mainly sharing my school journey with and what they can do to support a deaf student that they might find in their mainstream school, sadly, at the moment. Just please be inclusive. You know, don't be worried. This is how it is. It's very simple. Just make sure you're facing the person when you're talking to them. Make them feel included in your space. Take it in turns to talk. There's just so many simple things, as we know, that I talk about a lot on repeat, of what we can do to support our deaf community and make it a more inclusive space. So I love doing that. So, and also, so they're the two main services that I'm looking to offer that are quite new, and just building on everything that we do, really. There's a campaign that we're working on that we'll be launching early next year, which will be highlighting the use of captions online and the decline in them. So, but first and foremost, at the moment, I'm very just also wanting to just get involved and support wherever I can. There's a personal passion project that I have because I love music, Carly, and I find I go to live music venues, and I would really love there to be some captions.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's something that I really would love to be able to contribute towards making happen. And very excitedly, recently in the UK, Yvonne Green, who is a television presenter and BSL user, that's her first language, was speaking very highly around British Sign Language performance sign, the increase in it, and the fact that it's everywhere more or less is really exciting. And for the first time, she mentioned about how important it would be to have captions. And I've been feeling this for quite some time, and I would love to get involved in any project that could contribute towards that, making that happen. I've got Troy Lee, who's the founder of Deaf Wave, who, if you want to meet someone else who's really passionate about what they do, he's such a lovely man, and who has been launched Deaf Wave for 20 years. He's got incredible passion behind what he does, but he trains DJs and he puts on festivals and events for the deaf community after experiencing discrimination and not being allowed into the nightclubs, and which is just, it's like you just can't comprehend it really. It just seems ridiculous, but it's what goes on. So he's incredible, and there was a recent coverage about all of that. Just the misconception that deaf people don't enjoy music, it's not accessible to them, but it is. It's enjoyed by us both, and the profoundly deaf community. We experience it maybe in slightly different ways, but it's still enjoyable, and I love it. I'm the first one on the dance floor, and you know, I love music. I love dance as well. I do some ballet on a Monday, but don't get misled. I'm not a ballet dancer, but it's more like core Pilates. But I did used to do ballet when I was younger. But I love movement and dance and music. So a real passion project, and anything that I can do, that would probably be next. Anything that I can do towards raising awareness towards the importance of captions being made available at performances. And I'm working on a couple of things in the background. So hopefully that all comes together and I'll be able to talk about that next year. So watch this space.
Yeah. Fantastic. So captions for music, speaking, and giving it, maybe being consultant as well, lots of exciting things. And I think what that highlights, Amy, is that importance for education and breaking stigmas, and just like you said, it's simple things that can help somebody with hearing loss or deafness be involved, be part of the communication, be part of the conversation. Simple things, looking at each other, giving each other eye contact. They're little things, but if we start speaking to young children in schools about this, they're going to know it from an early age, and that can just be the way that they live their lives and move forward. So I think your ideas to kind of reach those younger, with the younger community, is a great idea, just to help them understand the challenges of living with hearing loss and how you can actually support people who are doing so. And I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to see what happens next for you, Amy.
Thanks, Carly.
We're coming to the end of the podcast. I'm wondering, is there anything you would like to add, or anything else you want to tell our listeners?
Oh dear. Just to say thank you so much, and thank you to you, Carly, for your support in the beginning, because we were, I think, supporting each other on the start of our journeys, weren't we?
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for your support and having me here today. It's really meant a lot. But yes, I think, yeah, if anyone would like to come and join our Facebook group, they would be very welcome. Living with Hearing Loss and Motherhood, all the information as well is on the website. So come along to our website if you aren't on social media, and that is livingwithhearingloss.co.uk. We're on Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok yet. And yeah, just come in my DMs, on Instagram. I'm very much there. If you need anything, just drop me a DM. If you have a question, please don't worry, I'm very friendly. I manage my social media accounts, so it's always me that you talk to. And if it's not me, it will be stated, but it's always me. And yeah, I think that was, everyone's welcome, the hearing community and the deaf community. So Living with Hearing Loss is also about raising awareness for the hearing community. If you have a loved one that's going through, and it's really interesting to read these stories that are shared, because it just helps to create compassion and understanding. Because it is, I do appreciate how hard it is to kind of understand something that is invisible. And I think, but if you have a desire to want to understand, then that's brilliant. Just read the stories, ask your loved one what their needs are, and yeah, simple changes that you can make to make it easier is looking at them, eye contact, making sure that you're talking away from speakers and in a, you know, quieter environment. Round tables are brilliant, and a good lighting so that we can see your face. All these just little things that don't require any technology, but just make things just a little bit easier. And also lip reading is a skill that not everyone knows. So never assume someone's needs. Always ask. I think is the best advice, really. Because there's 18 million in the UK, and within that we have very individual needs, don't we? So it's all very unique. So if in doubt, always ask. I think that would be my last thing to say.
I think that's a really good place to end, Amy. I think if in doubt, always ask. We all have different ways of communicating, and don't assume, don't ever make assumptions. I think that's fantastic. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I want to say thank you as well for supporting me back in the day when I think I was starting my sudden hearing loss support website at the time. So thank you for that as well. It's been lovely to talk to you. I'm sure we're going to get you back on the podcast when Ruth is back to join me as well. But until then, I want to say goodbye and thank you.